So to start out, I just kind of wanted to, number one, introduce Reviewer, and kind of why we are hosting this webinar, and then kind of roll right into what our topic is today. So a little background on Reviewer. We are an applicant management software. So essentially any program where you're intaking any sort of application, we can run it within Reviewer. So we run anything from scholarship programs to grants, awards, different competitions, call for speakers, all sorts of different contests and things like that. Um, so just over the years at Reviewer, we have run thousands of different scholarship programs. So we have kind of compiled a lot of what we have seen just kind of work for a lot of our clients and a lot of the programs. And just compiled a checklist as you're moving into your busy season and getting ready and all loaded up for your scholarship programs. We've just kind of compiled a checklist to make sure that you're prepared and ready to have the most effective scholarship program that you can. Um, so that being said, my name is Callie. I run all of our marketing here at Reviewer. So my role in this webinar is just to kind of give you some insights and some backgrounds based on research in the scholarship space in general. And I have Hallie here from my team, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm Hallie. I'm a part of the customer success team here at Reviewer. So I work with all of our clients from the time they are onboarded into Reviewer. I help them get their event going, help them as they start to intake those submissions, help them with their evaluation, judging process, and then I help them kind of close things up and get ready for next year and help them kind of get started. So I kind of have that inside perspective of understanding where a lot of our clients and admin are coming from with past processes that they've used, whether it's a different system, a different platform, if it was possibly just emails and files that they were using, understanding their frustrations with where they're coming from, and then also kind of understanding what they're looking for and what they find best helpful, and it kind of helps them make that turnaround into their program. So I just kind of have that insider perspective of understanding where clients are coming from and kind of what they're seeing as to be helpful that we have to offer.
Awesome. All right. I do just want to note before we get fully going here that the chat is open. So any questions that you guys have as we're going along, feel free to drop them in the chat. So with that being said, we are going to hop right into it. And the first thing we're going to kind of touch on is why preparation for these programs matters. So overall, the benefit to doing a lot of the prep work beforehand and before these programs are actually started is just to kind of ensure that you are running the smoothest program for yourself, management-wise, making it as easy on you as possible, and then as smooth as possible for your judges and your applicants. Your judges are normally volunteering your time for your program, so making sure that they have a really easy process. And then obviously the scholarship programs altogether are for the applicants. So preparation just ensures that they will have a simple process as well. Um, and and kind of what we've seen here at Reviewer is when you have that prep time and you put that prep in, we see about a 60% less time spent for admin work and different management things that go along with that. We see your review process is going 3 times faster. And then your completion rate of your application goes up by 40% when you have that prep work done and your program is running as efficiently as possible.
Real quick, it looks like we have a question, Callie. And the question is, are scholarships any different for grad school? And the answer to this would be no. I don't think that the grade level, the age matters. And honestly, even the event, because everything is super specific to how you're running it. So whether it's an undergrad, graduate, high school, whatever scholarship program you're running, we can totally tailor, customize, and make it work for whatever your goals are. So I wouldn't say that it matters too much depending on age or types of scholarships that you're running.
Right, good question. All right, so now we are going to look at today's agenda. I'll just give you a quick overview so you kind of know all the pieces we're going to touch on before we get into them. The first one is the the first piece of this checklist, I guess, is optimizing your application intake. That's making it as simple for your applicants as possible. The second one is preparing your review team, your judges, making sure they are ready to go. And then fair defensible decisions, making sure you have that process outlined. Scholar relationship management. So those are actually your relationship with the scholars and your winners. And then building a realistic timeline. And then the last one will be common pre-launch mistakes that we see happening before your program even starts intaking applications.
Yeah, so the first thing we're going to talk about is that first item, which is optimizing your application intake. So a couple of things that we support, offer, and encourage here at Reviewer are going to be eligibility screening, cleaner form design, supporting documents, and smart fields. So just to dive a little bit deeper into those, the first thing is going to be eligibility screening. I encourage this to everyone that comes through Reviewer, no matter your scholarship, award, competition, anything like that. No matter kind of what you're running, typically there's some kind of guideline, whether it's your age, major, anything like that, especially for scholarships. And so setting up that eligibility screening ensures that you are only having applicants complete your form that are fully eligible. Obviously, the interviewing, the evaluation process is going to be different, and that's going to be where you kind of narrow down your actual awards, your winners, your scholars. But the eligibility screening saves you a step because then anyone who is not eligible for your scholarship is not able to complete your form. So because they're not able to complete, they will be kicked out of the form, and you will be able to see on your admin dashboard that they did not complete the form and they are not eligible. Second thing is cleaner form design. So reducing your applicant drop-off rate because it's an intuitive process. So instead of having a confusing, we send this email to this person, this doc to this person, this file to this person, or even on some other platforms where we're still having to send documents and files and secure things directly to those of you admin who are running the event. So making the form easier where it's easy for them to click through each page, fill things out and be done, as well as everything in one place. Supporting documents. So again, with the file upload, transcripts, recommendations, everything can be in one place, whether they upload that all themselves or we set up a supplemental event where we invite that recommender, we invite that guidance counselor in to submit those transcripts or recommendations for them. Again, all in one place, making it easier for the applicant and then also for you as the admin. You don't have to chase down all of those separate files. And then the last thing is smart fields. Something that we offer here is conditional logic. So if there's a question where you want them to list all of their extracurricular activities, we can select how many would you like to list, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And based on what they select, that's how many fields show up that relate to that question. Really important just for the applicant because then that's not a lot of extra busy text on their page, which we talked about cleaner form design. And then also for you as an admin, we don't just have blank things for them to look through. Same for your judges. No blank fields for them to look through. I just wanted to share with you what that eligibility screening looks like. It can look different for every single event. So this, for example, is going to be an awards event, but we can obviously tailor this to your scholarship event with those eligibility questions such as their major, their age, where they're attending, if it's a 4-year or 2-year, and then also use those eligibility questions to match them to the scholarships you are providing that best fit them. So just for an example, this would be like kind of that first page explaining about your scholarship. Second page is eligibility. So this is super, super simple. Three quick questions. But then we also have the ability to add any unlimited amount of questions for that eligibility. So whatever best works for your event. So for example, do you turn 30 before May 31st of 2024? Please provide your date of birth and then have you applied for this in the past. So the eligibility is you have to have turned 30 before May 31st. Provide that year just to kind of prove and ensure that you are correct. And then have you applied for 30 under 30 in the past? If you have, you are not eligible. But because they answered all these questions correctly, they get to move through the form.
All right. So now we are going to pop in to the review team section. And kind of the next piece of the checklist is preparing your review team. When your judges go in to start scoring, what we often see happening is number one. Not all judges are on the same page. They might be scoring differently or have different perceptions of what you guys are looking for in an applicant. Or two, just unaware of how your program is run and how are they to judge and take their scores, things like that. And then if it comes near the end of the program and they go to start judging, being able to do it quickly, if they don't understand the expectations, can cause quite a few issues. So some of the ways to kind of prepare your review team before you even start your review process is recruiting and onboarding early. So get the reviewers before you're in kind of the hustle and bustle of your program, share them your scorecards up front so they know what they're going to be judging on, kind of timelines where you want them to be at before you even start your judging process. The second thing is log in early and get familiar. So if you are using a software like Reviewer or any type of program to run your scholarship, having them log in early, make sure they know what they're doing, make sure they have access to all the forms and everything that they might need before the actual judging period starts. And then the next one is calibration sessions. So this is just meeting internally with your judges, possibly sharing some examples of what you consider to be a really good application, things to look for, and make sure that their scoring standards are all aligned with one another, just to make the process as fair as possible from judge to judge. And then it would be smart assignment and work overload. So this is trying to avoid kind of that judging fatigue. So being able to, one, randomize your judges to applicants for fairness, and then two, making sure that you are not assigning too many applicants to each judge, that they're going to kind of get overloaded and not be able to complete it. And then the last one is clear instructions and intuitive tools. Make sure that your process and the tools that you are using are as easy and simple as possible for your judges. Because like I said earlier, typically these are volunteers who are taking time out of their day to help you. So we want to make this process as simple for them as possible.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of what Callie kind of went through, I am going to show you some of the little backgrounding of that review setup process. So a lot of that process is going to take place in our groups and divisions page. So at Reviewer, we really want to try and keep your organized or your submissions organized, excuse me. So part of that is keeping your submissions in specific statuses throughout the process. And then another part of that is organizing by groups and divisions. So groups is our main thing. Every single submission has to be in a group when it comes time to evaluate. So I would say 9 times out of 10, we auto group based on a question they answer in the form, whether that is the type of scholarship they're applying for, what kind of school they're going to. However, you kind of are going to base your scoring off of. A lot of times we have different scorecards based on different groupings. And so just knowing that we can separate our submissions into different buckets, however best works for you. That's kind of an outline of that. On this groups and divisions page, you can see the name of those groups as well as the reviewers that are assigned to those groups. Again, kind of piggybacking off of what Callie said, getting ready for that, I really always encourage our clients to add their reviewers in as you're intaking the submissions, because the more that you can get done before it's time to actually start that review process and you're in a crunch timeline, the better. So getting those reviewers added into the system and then assigning them to their corresponding groups. Part of also making that assignment process is clicking into this manage assignments and actually assigning those submissions to the reviewers. What you can kind of do here is up to you. A really popular one is auto assigning reviewers. So setting a maximum and minimum of reviewers per submission, and then it'll automate and kind of make that assignment for you. A really great tool to kind of take that burden off of you. We also have the option to manually assign. So if you have any bias, conflict of interest within any groups, you can kind of combat that by manually assigning. And then we also have the option to assign all, which means all submissions are going to be reviewed by all reviewers in their group. One thing that I think a lot of people maybe get tripped up on when they start out is that reviewers are only going to be seeing the submissions in their group. So even if you have or not even in their group that they're assigned to. So just because all submissions and all reviewers are in a group doesn't mean that reviewers are going to see all submissions. There's a lot of flexibility with that. Perfect. Awesome. So kind of moving on, we have fair and defensible decision making. So the first thing is going to be defining our framework. So this is kind of piggybacking off of that evaluation process. Something that is really important to us at Reviewer is fair scoring. And so a lot of people I see are coming and there was no kind of straight scoring method that their judges were using. And so it's kind of just a free for all. That is not fair for the applicant when there's no direct scorecard that a judge is following. So really important that we are building those scorecards that everyone uses, but then also making sure that those scorecards match up with kind of the goals of your organization. So however you are running your scholarship, what is most important to you that this applicant has? What attributes, what traits, anything kind of along those lines are most important to you? Volunteer experience, activities, anything kind of along the lines that is most important to who your winner should be is what you kind of need to build your scorecard based off of. So not just a 1 through 5 of rating different parts of the submission form, but kind of having direct goals in mind when we're building that out. Multi-phase reviews. This is really awesome for if you have a bunch of applications, and even not if you just want to make sure that you really are giving each submission a fair shot. So first one is going to be kind of the pre-screening. We kind of weed out those who maybe are not as qualified as the next. Second one, we take a little bit more in depth and we have different things that we focus on. Again, we can change scorecards. We can use the same depending on how you want to set that up. Multi-phase reviews are a really great way to just kind of ensure that all your judges are on the same page, have the time to kind of double check, review, make sure that these people that they're putting at the top of their list really are who you want up there. Team deliberation. So having those productive discussions without bias. It's kind of going to create that structured processes for borderline cases. So kind of a great way for your judges to connect, convene, and discuss who really is at the top. And eliminating any bias. With that, we really like to take any identifying information out of the form for reviewers to see. So you as admin will still collect all of that information, such as name, address, contact info, anything like that. But we want to make sure that the judges can't see that, so there's absolutely no opportunity for bias. That's a really great thing that we can set up. And then the last thing is score normalization. So something that is kind of inevitable that no one really has any control of is how someone scores. So throughout the judging process, if we are scoring 1 through 10, which we like to kind of avoid, emotional responses tend to even out better. But if we are scoring 1 through 10, my version of a 6 is going to be different than Callie's version. With that, we have really tough judges and we have really easy judges. So kind of not super fair for the applicants. So what we do with score normalization is we kind of weed out any sort of tough judge versus easy judge. We kind of set those kind of baseline numbers for them and then go off of that. So I'm going to kind of show you just a little bit more in depth what that normalization report looks like so you guys can kind of get a better understanding. Perfect. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to pull an Excel spreadsheet report for you. So just kind of a quick breakdown. On the left, we have all of our submission names, and at the top, we have all of our judge names. Each cell corresponding is going to be the score that the judge gave each applicant. Moving over, we have the average scores that each judge gave to applicants overall. This is going to be that bottom green line. That's going to be their average. So this is going to be their baseline. So on average, we see that Judge Judy gave a score of 23.875, whereas Tony gave a score of 34.125. I'm obviously going to hope that Tony is my judge because that's a higher score. Where that normalization report comes on is it takes all of these average scores per judge and that becomes their baseline. That becomes their 1. So whether it's a 34 or a 23, that number becomes a 1. It's their baseline. So then anything above that 23 above that 1 is going to be above average. That's going to be those applicants that truly did score above that average, that judge's average score, and anything below is going to be below average. So then over here on that last column, we have all of our scores that were either above average, below average, and you can see across all judges who truly did receive that best score. So not just looking off of who got the overall highest score, because that sometimes is not going to be even and show who really did earn that. And it's going to show the average score, which is really important just because no submission goes unlooked at.
All right. So our next piece of our checklist before to kind of look at before starting your programs is the scholar relationship management. So essentially, we have seen that a lot of programs don't always interact with their scholars after the program. And we see some needing different things from their scholar, their recipients. So you might be collecting GPAs or confirmation of classes taken or enrollment, things like that. So the first piece to this is kind of planning your post award before launch. What can be really difficult is if you wait till those scholars are already awarded, then you don't have much time to kind of give them the expectation and give everything to them and get from them that you need. So planning that ahead of time can be super important. And then the next thing is just acceptance and compliance docs. So preparing your acceptance packets, your forms, if you need things like bank accounts or where the money's going to from universities, compliance documents, making sure that you have those ready in advance to just send them out super quickly. The second one is ongoing scholar metrics. So if you are going to track any type of metrics on your award winners after the program, making sure you have those outlined before you get started. Those can be things like how many credits are they enrolled in, if they have to hold a certain GPA, their progress towards their degree, kind of things like that. We have seen some scholarship programs collecting, so making sure you know which metrics you want to collect beforehand. And then communication framework. So how are you going to contact them? Is automation possible? I know through Reviewer, we actually have an option for them to come back in the portal if they have different files and things they need to upload after they're awarded. They can come back in and upload those for you. You can also set reminder emails to go out to remind them throughout the semester to come back in and turn in the things that you need.
Yeah. And then one of the other things we'll talk about is building a realistic timeline. Um, I think that a lot of our focus when we do onboard our clients is kind of getting a timeline. And this doesn't mean that it's super strict. We have to stick to it. But I think that we see an overall better rate of completion. We see a better experience for the applicants when us as admin kind of set those timelines and make sure we have things done by then. So that starts with onboarding when we get your event into reviewer, getting a time where we have it set and then giving a timeline for testing. So then reflecting that onto the actual application deadline. So typically when we do onboard, we start from the award date. So when are you wanting to, when's your final, when are we giving out these awards? Based on that, when are you closing submissions? How much time do you need between the submission deadline to have your review process and then have that award date? And then kind of based on that submission deadline is how we figure out the timeline for getting your event into reviewer finalized, things like that. Building in that buffer time. So when we do have kind of those your set deadline for submission, your judging, and then your award, making sure that there's a little bit of buffer time, even for your going live date. No matter what happens, if you have someone last minute come in for a last minute review of your award before you go live and there's 5 changes, being okay with having it go live a day later or 2 days later, just to ensure that everything is going to run smoothly for you. And that's not just for going live, that is for your submission deadline. If people are having problems or need that extension deadline, being okay with moving that back a day or two. Setting key milestones. I think that this is also super helpful for admin. I'll show you in just a minute the admin dashboard, but I always really encourage to set milestones, custom dates throughout your process of maybe things you want to check in on, check the statuses, but just kind of setting milestones to make sure that your award is on track. If your numbers are down from what you normally have, set that milestone halfway through and check, say, okay, how are our numbers looking? Do we need to push or are we kind of going steady? From there, you can kind of just go your marketing route. Do you need to publish that more? Do you need to push it more places? Kind of having milestones to check in on your event and then also kind of see what you need to do moving forward with those milestones and kind of making record of where you're at, how submissions are going, things along those lines. You have that from year to year to kind of keep track, have your baseline, and then kind of experiment on ways of how you can kind of do better with that. And then last thing is communicate early and often. So not only are we having this internal deadlines, but also with your stakeholders, with your external partners, with your community, with the applicants, making sure that we have these timelines kind of published, and everyone has a good visibility of how kind of things are planned to go out in time wise. Really quickly, I just wanted to show you guys that admin dashboard. So when you first go into Reviewer and you click into your event, this is where you're going to be taken. So also kind of with that setting your milestones. You can see how many submissions, the status of all of them. And then down here, you can see the custom dates and deadlines. So we have all of our milestones kind of shown here. And then within those, you can name them whatever you want, and you can have specific tasks you want to get done during those milestones. But a great kind of visible first thing when you open up your event, those are what you see. So it's a really great way to kind of internally check in on your things.
All right, and then the last piece that we are going to touch on is just some common pre-launch mistakes that we have seen through all of the programs here at Reviewer. The first one being poor end-to-end testing. So typically we don't see that admins are testing the full program from start to end, going through the entire journey, every piece that needs uploaded, moving into your judging, things like that, to make sure everything is working properly before you actually get started. The next thing is high barrier applications. So that's one really complex, extensive forms or excessive requirements. And things like just not easy access for those requirements, especially when it comes to file uploads and things like that. The third one is disconnected systems. So that is kind of moving all different moving pieces. You might have spreadsheets, you might have different forms, you might have emails going back and forth. All of those different systems, trying to use them all to run one program and set them all of those up before your launch can be pretty difficult. And then the second time is underestimating review time. So not giving your reviewers enough time to get all of these done, um, and and not taking into account how long it might take to actually judge those applications. So that is when the testing comes into play, kind of mock judge a couple applications to see realistically how long it would take your judges to do that, and give them a deadline according to that. And then our fifth one is misaligned stakeholders. So forgetting to align teams on criterias and goals before you launch. We know that all of your organizations, you have your own values and missions and things you're wanting to achieve with this program, and making sure that everyone involved, including your judges, understand those before you get started. And then the last one is post-award afterthought. So once those awards are kind of given out, not thinking about what you're going to do after that. So that can be things like using your award winners just kind of for some promo for social media, telling their stories, articles, website, things like that. Not taking that into consideration and getting that stuff ready before your program is launched. And that, with that being said, we are going to move into some Q&A. So feel free to drop any of your questions in the chat. They can be program specific, they can be kind of broad, best practices. You can just start dropping those in the chat.
Well, looks like our first question is the timeline saved from year to year to compare? This is our first year. Can it handle weekly updates? The answer to that is yes. So when you copy over your event from year to year, you will have access to all of your events. So even if you mark it as closed, you still will have access to every single event you run in Reviewer. So your live date, your submission deadline, sign up deadline, countdown, everything will be saved to its original date. So you'll be able to check back in and see what that timeline was like. Same with your custom dates and deadlines. So whatever custom dates and deadlines you add into your system, those are going to save. So all you'll have to do is click into your event from the year past, check those custom dates and deadlines, then go to that profile page and check those dates and deadlines that you set kind of system wide, and you'll have access to that. Another question we just got was if we are used for programs outside of scholarships, and the answer to that is yes. We're used for not only scholarships, but awards, grants, competitions, call for entries, fellowships, any application-based program that you are running, we can run through Reviewer. You won't be building out your event as you're intaking submissions because that will cause errors and taking submissions while you're editing the form. So you won't be going live and sharing that event with applicants until you are done building out that form, if that makes sense.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, be on the lookout to hear from our team. In the next couple days, we'll send you a little recap. If you have any questions, you can also follow up with them, get those answered. But thank you guys for attending our webinar today.